Getting on the housing ladder is a rite of passage for many, but the property market is more competitive than ever. Prices have gone up by 15% in a year, the largest increase on record and the highest rise in the UK.
There's always been a housing crisis, I'm totally aware of that, but I think this summer has just hit an absolute perfect storm.
Pent-up demand after lockdown has left the market in a frenzy.
It's got absolutely crazy. Places are selling, within a couple of days, a week.
Average house prices have skyrocketed since records began in 2004.
Nobody really wants a market where everything's flying and prices are increasing month on month, because that's not sustainable.
All of this has left some feeling priced out.
I feel like I'm in limbo, and I would really have liked to have been moved into somewhere by the end of this year, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Fraser's been keen to get on the property ladder in Glasgow for a few years now, but after several unsuccessful bids on flats which sold for significantly above the asking price, his optimism is waning.
I feel like I'm in a good position. I've got a full-time job and I've been saving for quite a while, but I can't afford to pay like tens of £1,000s over the asking price for a flat, so I'm going to have to just continue to rent. It doesn't feel any different to when I wasn't in any position to put down a deposit on a flat.
What did you think when you saw how much some of these properties were going for and offers over?
I feel it's like, property developers who have a slush fund who can afford to spend this money on the flat to do it up to make more money, but some of us just want somewhere to live. The first property I bid on this year, I put a bid in at the valuation price and was told that someone else had bid significantly higher. The last one I put a bid in on, I kind of hedged my bets and I bid about 7,000 over the valuation price, and I was told I was the second lowest person bidding on it. How
frustrating is that to feel like it's out of reach?
My landlord's my flatmate, I get on with him really well, but obviously through lockdown, looking at the same four walls all the time, I kind of want a bit of a change, and plus it's been 10 years and I'm ready to buy my own house now, so it is really frustrating.
For sellers though, it's an ideal time to list a house for sale. Bill and his husband Gary are selling their 4-bedroom home in Edinburgh, the most expensive area in Scotland to buy property.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Good, thank you. Oh, this is lovely.
Yes, this is the lounge.
Great. And have you had lots of interest?
There's been a huge amount of interest. D1 was 8 people. I remember this thinking, that's too many. So it's been a steady sort of crop of people coming in.
I can imagine a lot of people have been very attracted to the house, not only because it's so unusual, but also because of the garden.
Well, yes, it's a prized possession to have the best of times, but with COVID, everyone seems to be wanting their own additional space and their own space. We've had 2 notes of interest, so I've been very pleased with it, and so I hope that it's going to result in a quick sale for us.
Bill and Gary are moving to the Borders, where they own a cottage they've been letting out as a holiday home. The area has become a hotspot for people moving away from city life.
And you were then very lucky to have a different option to move elsewhere.
Yes, because before that we started looking for houses, and it was just, they were kind of flying out before you even had a chance to think, is this right, and is it worth what's happening. There's bids going in and you kind of get caught up in that, oh my god, I must bid and I must go higher and higher and higher.
Yeah, so we stepped out of it, but we're very fortunate we're in a position we could just step out of it. We want to be out of the city now.
Seeing with the market as it is, what are your thoughts on the challenges it must be facing first-time buyers, for example?
It must be a total nightmare. It's really so hard. You used to always associate that with the south of England, but I think it's happening here as well. So
if we decided in the future to come back to Edinburgh, we couldn't afford to buy even our own house.
In the past year alone, the average house price in Scotland has gone up £20,000. Buyers are being urged to tread carefully so that their investment is worthwhile.
It's ensuring that you don't sometimes get caught up in that, and the excitement of the bid when it goes to closing date, that you don't massively overbid too much, because there will be a time that you need to sell. And if we're in a different marketplace at that point, it's important that that you can still ultimately realise at least the price that you paid for it in the first place.
It must be disheartening for first-time buyers seeing the market like this. What would your advice be?
I think a benefit of being a first-time buyer is you're not in a chain, so you can move a lot quicker than potentially someone that bids that has a property to sell. And again, sometimes that's a consideration when offers are made and the sellers decide which offer to accept. Salaries aren't rising at the same rate, so if you follow that through, at some point things need to level off. So there's the affordability question, and we need to ensure first-time buyers can get on the ladder. That's very, very important for the market.
On the ladder, it can be a struggle. Maeve wanted to sell her one-bedroom flat and buy something more suitable for her and her young son.
Before, when I'd been looking, but we didn't have the flat in the market, I had seen quite a few coming up. So I was thinking, well, this is fine, this won't be a problem. And then it got to when I'd sold, and there was, they just evaporated.
With hopes of buying a new property fading, Maeve looked into renting.
We didn't find ones that were suitable. The ones that I looked at had damp or they had problems with the roof. One that I phoned that was round the corner from the flat, 2-bedroomed, perfect. And they said, we've had 300 inquiries, we can only take the first 6. So that was me not able to do that. She basically said, you're not one of the 6.
What did you decide to do?
We decided, after a lot of soul searching, to withdraw from a sale. So I had to do that, which was not a nice thing to do. And, people that are within the sale, within the chain, that'll have messed things up for them. But for us, I had to kind of put my son first. So he was getting very upset not knowing where we were going. There was so much uncertainty and he doesn't need that. No kid needs that. So we've got this certainty just now, at least, that we're staying put.
Average rents are now at an all-time high in Scotland. Yet again, demand is outstripping supply.
I don't know what my advice would be, other than that just be really cautious and be aware that if it's rental that you're looking at, there's very little out there. Estate agent was brilliant. Even he was quite shocked and said, I didn't realise that's what you'd be stepping into.
And yet, across Scotland, tens of thousands of properties are sitting vacant. Joanne is part of a network of empty homes officers trying to tackle the problem.
Empty properties isn't going to be the answer to our housing crisis, but it can help. It can be a small part of the solution. There's 47,000 empty properties that we know of in Scotland at the moment.
Some people might say, well, surely it's quite simple then. There are empty homes you know about, there are people needing somewhere to live. But it's more complicated than that, isn't it?
Owners can be in financial difficulty. They can be overwhelmed with the issue of owning an empty property and bringing it back into use, and often they just stick their head in the sand. There can be emotional ties to a property, or the owner could be missing. So we can't force people to bring their property back into use. So one of the main challenges is that empty homes officers don't have a lot of tools. We often have to just work with advice and assistance. There's compulsory purchase orders, but they're very resource intensive. We are waiting for compulsory sales orders. Every empty homes officer across Scotland, I think, is waiting in anticipation for this power to come in.
Since the Scotland-wide Empty Homes Partnership was set up in 2010, more than 6,000 homes have been brought back into use. And for those searching for a new home in the wider market, a bit of luck goes a long way. Ashley expected to bid on a number of flats before having an offer accepted.
Nearly fell off my chair when I got the phone call. But yeah, it was my first offer, and it was actually under home report value, so I was quite surprised and so happy.
So this is your second time looking for a flat. How does it compare to the first time around?
The first time I was looking for a property was actually a new build that I had bought, and that felt like a whole different experience. I knew exactly what the outlays were, what I had to pay, what the deposit was going to be, and this time has been a whole new ball game because it is more of a blind bid. You don't know if you're going to get it or you're not. I think I've heard so many people who have put in maybe 10 different offers, and maybe the 11th one they've had it, and I think it is just persistence and seeing as much properties as you possibly can. I guess it is, if you live somewhere, then just put in what you feel that it's worth, and just really try and go for it.
For some though, it's still a waiting game.
Maybe in the spring we'll look again when things are just a bit more settled. But who knows? I don't know what's going to happen, and I think there's an unpredictability in a way I've never seen before, and a nervousness I've never seen before.
It's a terrible thing to say, but you kind of hope that the market collapses a bit so that you can actually get a chance to go on it. I mean, it's a terrible situation for people selling their flats, obviously, but for those of us who want to buy, we're really priced out by this completely overinflated market.